Hi everyone, we're going to talk about the Bevel and Extrude tool. Now the Bevel and Extrude tool is going to start off with, I'm going to type a letter T for with my name, and so I'm going to go ahead and select that, and there we go, and type that in, and just give a nice letter T for there, or actually I'll go letter A, put A for my name there, A-R-T-H-U-R, and I've got my name in there. And now what I'm going to do is to go and set that bevel and extrude, okay? So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to go ahead and color my name, and let's make it a nice old blue color. It's a nice place to start. And I'm going to go ahead and do on the outline, let's do a dark blue for an outline for the outside, okay? Maybe let's go into kind of an off blue about that. Yeah, something just a little bit darker. Okay, so I've got this right here, and I'm going to go and play with again with the Bevel and Extrude tool. So I have my name set up in here, and I'm going to go Command C once just to sort of copy that. So I've got it in the memory. Now what I'm going to do is to apply the Extrude and Bevel is I'm going to go with my word here selected, and I've got my white arrow. I'm going to go to Effect, 3D, Extrude and Bevel. Click on that. Now I can instantly get a little pop-up menu. Now look what happened to my name. Instantly, it beveled, it extruded. It has my name, but it has depth to it now. So we have that 3D. Now, how does that work with this little menu that pops up here? Well, first off, this little box that's right here, actually, I can go ahead and just see why I sort of move my cursor and I go right to the corners here and it becomes a bent arrow. Well, that's where I can click on it and drag, and I can go ahead and rotate my name. You see that? I can go ahead and rotate that so that I can see it from the different angles. Okay, now that's going to be number one. So I've got this right here. Now number two is that you'll notice when I was changing these things, these little guys right here changed also. So you have a very specific angle you want to get to. You could always type in the specific angle you'd like in terms of its rotation forwards and backwards, left to right, or round going in space, in Z space. Now, for the down below, this next one you want to know right here is where is extrude depth. Now, extrude depth is literally the distance from the top of the letter or object as it's going back in space. So we could say here, right now it's at 50. Let's say change it up to about 200. Look at that. Look how that just pops that forward. Go further, even more so. But let's take it back down to around 20 or so. That's a good space to have it in right there. 20 or 50. There we go. Now, the next thing I want to show you here is right here where it says cap. Okay, this is the cap, which means basically the front end of the lettering here. The side showing you, this is what actually it is that right now the cap is on. But if I turn cap off, look at that. My name becomes hollow, right? My name becomes hollow, and you can see through the letters. Look at that. But if I go back over to here and put the cap back on again, so turn cap on, and now it becomes a solid object once again. So cap off, cap on. All right. Now the bevel is one where you can put a little bit of a curve onto the objects. I'll show that again in a few minutes. I'm not going to show it with the letters because sometimes it takes a little while to process because it has to configure each one of those. So I'll come back to that. Now down below here, probably the most important thing to know is right here where it says more options. This is the one you're really going to need to know. When you pop that down, I'll move this to the side here, you'll notice that on here, the first thing you get is the shading. You get this ball with a dot on it. Now we can move that dot by selecting it. So I left click and drag, and you notice that on the text on the screen, you notice that my highlight and shadow is changing. There it's up front, now it's to the left, now it's up above, now it's down below, right? So I can change where that light source is coming from. Okay, the light intensity, I can change the ambient light, means the light around the object itself, right? So the sun gets darker, so that makes my shadows darker. And I put more ambient light in the room, and so my letters overall get brighter, right? Now, highlight size, this is the size of the white pin spot that's on my light. So right now I've got it at full strength, but I can certainly take that down to about 20%. And it's going to get something very, very dark, much, much darker on that highlight side. It goes more muted. But I'm going to go ahead and keep that way up here, nice and high. And my binding steps. Now these steps I'll show a little bit later, but these are the gradations. So when we're working from the front of the letter to the back, each little variation as it gets darker and goes back, it actually has a step, right? And that's a sort of a field of area of lighter or darker color. We'll see that more when we do the next part. Shading color, black. If I wanted to change that, none, or custom, I can do that. So see if I wanted to have a red glow on the background of that object. Or I can augment that glow so it has a slightly different color to it, right? If I wanted to go back in, double click that, change it again, I can go back in, maybe give it a purplish, right? Or a kind of a faded blue color there, and then that becomes the color. So I'm back into here. So you can change that background custom color. Now there are more options in here, but for right now what we're going to be doing, this is the #1 thing to be thinking about. So if I'm done with it, I can say, okay, that's it, it's done. Now, but what I can do though, is I can go ahead and I can use my free transform tool, and I can go ahead and shrink it up, right, if I want to. No problem there. I can go ahead and rotate it, certainly. And if I wanted to change the colors again, or augment it again, I have to go over an object, expand it, then I can go back in and I can change the colors and I can add more to it. But for right now, let's see where it's at. Now I'm going to go Command V. Oh, didn't seem to remember that in the memory there, so I'm going to go ahead and type in my name here again. And this time, you know what I think I'll probably just use the letter A, and I'll use one letter. And this time I'm going to show you, I'm going to go ahead and let's make this guy 200% here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and change his color. And let's go a nice light green on there. And let's use outline here. Let's do a light green on that also. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the Effect 3D Extrude and Bevel. Okay, so now we have my bevel again. I wanted to go back to a couple of things here, and I wanted to show you the steps. Now that's the steps that are inside here. So if I change this down to say, oh, let's go down to like 4 steps. I could probably go back in there and manually do that. It's probably going to be a little bit easier. 4. There we go. Kind of got 4 steps in there with this one. So now if I go and blow this up, go back in here, and you bring that back into here. Let me bring that back into that folder back in there. And we'll go back to my effect in 3D and Extrude and Bevel. There we go. So go back in there. So got the color on there. Let's change that highlight where that's coming from. We can see that a little bit better. There we go. Put it right there. And with my letter here, let's go ahead and take the extrusion depth, and let's crank that out a little bit. Oh, that's an awful lot of bit. So we got that here. Now let's go ahead and try those blend steps again. And let's go ahead and try those down to fewer steps. There we go. There we go. So we got that here. So literally we only have 3 colors on there now. Right? We only have 3 colors on that object. Right? If I take it down to 2, let me select that. Go to 2 color. Boom, now I only have 2, and you can see it best right back up in there. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, let's take a round letter. So you can be able to see that a little better. Let's go ahead and pick a, let's select here. Let's go ahead and select letter O. There's a nice one for us. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and let's make it maybe a nice pink. And select it. Make that a nice pink color, magenta. And click off the side there, we can see that. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to Effect and 3D Extrude and Bevel. There we are, and there it is. And so now I can go ahead and extrusion depth, I go and change it, make it a little darker. Look at that. Now we should be able to see that gradation a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do with this one now is I'm going to go ahead and here's where it says that gradation here and blend step. And generally somewhere in the low 20 to 25 is where you really can start to see a smooth gradation. There's our 4 right there. 4 colors right there. You can see that. So let me go ahead and change that up to a 6 color. There you go. Now you can see 6 color variations on there. Right? Let's go ahead here. And we have our color here. Let's go back in here and go. There we go. So we're back in and go Effect and 3D Bevel and Extrude. And we're back into here again. So you can see those color variations in there. Let's go ahead and try the, next is the Bevel, none. Let's try Bevel and let's go Cove. You see that cove? He puts that line around that edge. Let's go and try the next one. Bevel and Complex. We get a ribbed object. And you can see here that I can go ahead and set this and expand it out. And look at that. Isn't that a cool, fun shape? So I can go ahead and round that just a little bit here. Bring that around. There we go. So you can see through that. Now I can go ahead and if I want to change where that light is coming from. And you really can see it on this one because you can really see that each of the little ripples there is catching the light. Now let's see if I go from complex, let's go to jagged. It's too varied like that. Let's go ahead and go rolling. Pretty nice. And let's go ahead and go, let's go back to complex, right? But I can save I can go ahead and select the height of that complexity, right? In other words, if I want it more complex, see how it starts to build that out, push that back in? Look at that. So I can go back and play with the complexity or the severity of that roll that's happening there. Let's go ahead and take it back to, just back to classic. And once again, I can go ahead and change that back over. Look at that. Look at it, play with that shape. Almost make it a bit of a like a cone here. Let's go ahead and rotate it a little bit and take a look at it from another angle. There we go. We start to see that from another angle now. There you go. See that? Very interesting, huh? So where we can apply that. We can apply it to the body or to the end. This is to the end, and this is applying it to the body. So we can go back in here, and I can check and say, well, let's go ahead and take a look at it as complex 1, right? Let's take a look at it as complex 3, right? Very different kind of shape, huh? So again, we're applying that to the end versus to the body, and you really, really get quite a different look. So we can try another one over here is jagged, right? Rolling, isn't that something else, right? And once again, I can go ahead and I can extend that way out, make that really small. It's not a great object. It's so much fun. So we can go back in and do our highlights and shadows. So again, I can move that highlight and shadow around. So my light coming from the top, my light coming from the side, down below, and over. So it's very interesting that you can make these great little shapes. Now remember earlier I said about blending shapes? That's that gradation from light to dark. If I go back in again, because this is a bigger object, and I take that way down, now you can really see the strata. You can really see the steps in the color as it's changing from there, right? So again, the more steps you put in, you see it gets smoother and optically smoother. And generally right in the low 20s is kind of the place where it starts to get the smoothest. But certainly you can take it up really, really high, like 250 here, and it becomes like glass. It just gets so smooth. It's really, really nice. But we'll take it back down a little bit. There we go. All right. So there we have it, folks. We have a text now that's been applied to objects and shapes. Let me say OK there. And that finalizes this guy. Notice again, there it is in its original shape. We can see it was originally a circle, right? But now it's locked in position. So I wanted to change this. Now I could grab it and hold the Alt key and grab it and then make a copy of it. Alt key, make a copy of it, right? Alt key, make a copy of it. Alt key, make a copy of it. You get the idea that I can go back in and I can start to build a whole world full of three-dimensional objects by using the effect and 3D Extrude and Bevel. And I can use that using shapes, circles, squares, pretty much anything I want to go ahead and make myself a beveled object. So I'd like you to go ahead yourselves and practice using this yourself. I think you're going to have a lot of fun doing it. Certainly, I know you've watched me do it in class, but now's your time to go ahead in the sandbox and play a little bit. Try to break the machine. It's okay. Try to break the Illustrator. It's okay. That's a good thing because, you know, that's fun to play, and that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. That is to be able to figuring out how it works and how to use the tools and how to apply those. So get out there and play with these things. Have some fun with them. It's going to be you guys are going to have a great time with these. Okay? Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.